inviting me and hosting me and extending very warm hospitality, kindness, and all manner of form of assistance. It has been a very ennobling experience, although it's short, but it's a memorable stay, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I've learned a lot in the short time that I'm here. My only regret is that the time was short and I did not, or I do not have the privilege of spending more time and going into deeper details on some of the thoughts and some of the things that I'm doing, which I would like to share with you and take it forward. Personally, I feel this is a very good environment, a wonderful environment, because it's starting fresh. You don't have to change anything. You are starting fresh. This particular campus, the institute, is starting from scratch, literally starting from scratch. So it's easy to introduce, and we can collate and draw experiences, expertise, insights from all sources. But let us see what we can do ourselves also at the same time. Not just borrow or draw from others, but see what we can do. I have personally looked at two specific areas of interest. One is the practice and practical application of the Buddha Dhamma in everyday life. The practice and practical application of the Buddha Dhamma in everyday life. Not so much the study of the scriptures, memorization of the scriptures, recitation of the scriptures in a mechanical, routine manner, but the understanding of the scriptures and how the scriptures can be applied to modern life. The Buddha Dhamma is relevant in terms of timeless relevance.
If you need translation, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll ask.
Any translation? Don't be shy.
Okay, when you need translation, please raise your hand so
Yeah.
we can give the translation.
I will go as slow as possible. I will go as slow as possible. The Buddha Dhamma is timeless. It is relevant for all times. So, although the idioms and the similes and the parables and the stories might be ancient, but they are relevant for modern time. We can use modern similes like the computer, like the laptop and things like that. And we can also adjust, or rather we must also adjust our materials, teaching materials to suit modern times. We can't think in terms of sitting under the tree and studying under the tree and teaching under the tree, but in the comforts of a computer lab, or with computer technology, with various modern techniques and methods of teaching. So that we must be mindful, which gives you an opportunity to develop these things, because it is a green field. Not much has been done. So your personal interaction, your personal insights, your personal observations, your personal skills, knowledge, expertise can make a tremendous contribution, and you can feel very great in terms of having done something and contributed something for the benefit of not just the institute, but for the whole world. So that is one message I have, and I want to inspire you, I want to urge you to try and involve yourself in this very wonderful challenge, which is also an opportunity. Challenge is also an opportunity. If there is no challenge, then there is no opportunity. So although it might be tough, it might be difficult, it might be very demanding, but it's a wonderful opportunity. The other area which I personally have been involved is Buddhist education and pedagogy. Now here again, being an institute and having so many departments, it is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for you to come up with materials that can be used not only in the institute but all over the world. As we have discussed very briefly the past 3 evenings or nights, I touched on some of these areas, and I hope that I have opened your minds and tickled your antenna to try and look at these areas where there is hardly anything being done, whereas there is so much needed in terms of making education relevant, meaningful and effective. So my own insights into the challenges to try and develop materials, because talking about the problem, discussing the problem is not going to overcome the problem. It only creates an awareness, but we have to go beyond awareness to addressing and coming up with all the goodies of answers, materials, educational materials. Although you might belong to different departments, specializing in geography or computer or science or literature or English, but within your department you should be able to come up with some ideas. And you will find that this is inspiring and very satisfying. Very satisfying. You can look back with great satisfaction. It will make your life much richer and it will make you feel much taller and much more meaningful, purposeful individual in life. Now, it so happens that those 2 areas also coincide, identical with what His Holiness has been pronouncing and propagating all over the world. And one area he has emphasized is secular ethics and compassion and teaching children how, or human beings, how to live as human beings, regardless of whatever faith, whatever religion, whatever culture, whatever society they come from. And to safeguard this planet Earth, which is now being threatened so seriously, and nobody is bothered. None of the politicians are bothered. So you have this opportunity as well. Regarding, I take the 3 components. Regarding the practice and practical application of Buddha Dhamma in everyday life, I have, as you must recall, in my presentations the last 2 evenings, referred to this book called Mother Care and Parenting. This is a manual. It is by no means complete. This is only the beginning, only a scratching of the surface. There's so much more to do. But because I was in a hurry, it took me 5 years, I still thought that it is better to start somewhere. So I have developed this as a manual for teaching and training young people how to live a happy married life. We as leaders, we as teachers, we as adults, we as fathers, as mothers, we are duty bound to contribute in this area. It is our duty for the younger generation. Just because it has not been done in the past, it doesn't mean that it must continue like that way. It is needed today more than ever before because society is in such a mess. The institution of marriage is in utter chaos in many parts of the world, and it is becoming worse and worse and worse. The United Nations have recognized this as a major problem, and they have all the decade of family, the decade of marriage, and all kinds of seminars and workshops, but they're only talking. They're only talking about the problem. Like the blind men, they're only describing the problem. It's all describing the problem and bemoaning the problem, but not coming up with the answers or solutions. So here we can look at the possibility of developing training programs, curriculum, materials for young people to understand what marriage is, how to honor this hitherto sacred institution called marriage. It's no more sacred today, as I mentioned the other day. They even go for test drive, like you test drive your motor car before you buy, you can test drive your spouse before you decide to get married. It is unthinkable even a couple of generations ago, but today that's the fashion. And you can keep changing your spouse. So what happens to the children? Obviously they are going to be in a mess. They are going to be out of focus. They are going to be in a disequilibrium. And you have all kinds of social ills and crimes, and these poor children, innocent children, are going to suffer a lot. Every time there is a dysfunctional marriage, the children suffer. And the only one who is benefiting are the lawyers. They make good money. Or the psychiatrists, and in America and some other societies, it is fashionable to go to a psychiatrist. If you have not gone to a psychiatrist, something is wrong with you. It's fashionable. And the higher you pay, the better it is. And they boast that they went to so and so psychiatrist, they go and they sit on a couch. Now we don't charge anything, we don't ask them to sit on a couch. We avoid these problems. We preempt. That is the beauty in what we are trying to do. If there is a problem, we try and solve the problem. But our strategy, our approach is to then not have to have this problem by preemptive, proactive action. So I need your help. And you are in a wonderful position as teachers who are next to parents to give the guidance. But you yourself must be an example. You yourself must be a role model. You yourself must be what you are going to impart to the young people. Because there's no two ways in terms of teaching pedagogy. The most powerful pedagogy is by example. And I quote what the Buddha said, I teach what I practice. I practice what I teach. It's the most powerful. There's no point writing and talking and having all kinds of lectures and classes and exercises if we ourselves do not show it in our own life. So get this principle of teaching by example as your most powerful method of teaching. This institution itself must be an institution of excellence. Because you're starting afresh, how you manage this institution, how you conduct yourself, how you organize yourself as an institution is equally important as you as an individual functioning in your own department or vis-a-vis your subject. I fortunately was given the opportunity to set up an institution for the government to train diplomats and ambassadors in international relations, as well as to train ordinary civil servants, not in the foreign ministry, but in all other ministries, including district office, to have an understanding, appreciation, and some knowledge and expertise, skills, work skills in international relations. So in developing that, it was very clear. As I said, I was very fortunate because I had the Buddha Dhamma to help me. So I developed this concept that this institution itself must reflect excellence. How you manage people, how you manage material, how you manage your campus, how you interact with your students, how students are motivated, all that must come out very clearly. And once that visibility is there, that excellence in the way, the method, and the mode in which you function and you organize yourself and you carry out and conduct all your activities, it will be visible, very visible throughout the country and throughout the world. So I want you to have that vision. This is my vision, but I want you to have the vision that you have this wonderful opportunity to achieve. So vision is very important. Not to function as an independent individual, isolated individual, but as a collective team to make this Dalai Lama Institute a center of excellence for global visibility and inspiration. And that will help other institutions within the community, within the country, and globally. That's what I see in this institute. Are you with me?
Yes.
You want to see this vision realized? You have a wonderful opportunity. Now, having understood, I can't have the whole day today, I rushed to airport, but having understood, having visualized this Center for Excellence as the Dalai Lama Institute, this is the least we can do for His Holiness, to make this a Center for Excellence. Because we have been fortunate that His Holiness had the foresight to have this institute, and it was not easy, and it is not going to be easy. But out of our gratitude, we should be able to, in turn, express and show and demonstrate our gratitude and appreciation by making this institute a reality. And having understood that, let us now move to the mission. A vision is no use if you don't have vision. So individually and collectively, you must have some vision. There is obviously chain of command, there is all obviously rules and regulations, but you must develop a culture. Aside from these rules and regulations and procedures, and you can't go on doing anything you like and what you like, and there will be utter chaos. Within that framework of procedures, organizational requirements, accountability, visibility, transparency, all those things must be there. You must be transparent. And you must develop a culture, a mental culture of having these important rules and regulations being observed to start with. You have to, because that is going to make you work, make you tick, and make you successful. The other is to have a mental culture of a collective effort. This is a collective effort. It is not just me and my work, but we collectively try and get it going. Now, to make it a success story, you cannot dream or have it by wishful thinking. There is nothing that is going to happen by your wishful thinking. So you have to commit yourself. That is important. You have to commit yourself here and now. I am going to do X, Y, Z. There is no shortcut. And the first commitment, and this is the paradox in education, in schooling, the paradox of education is we always look at the children or the student. We always think in terms of our students and our children or adolescents or youth. We don't think about ourselves. So now, this is painful, but this is the reality. We have to teach ourselves. Before we can teach the children, before we can teach the youngsters, before we can teach our youth, we have to teach ourselves. In the sense that we must understand what education is. We must become experts in our own field. In many societies, in Malay for example, you refer to them as tukang. Tukang. I don't know what the Indian and other Tibetan terms are. In other words, you must be a skilled worker. The tukan is, if you are a carpenter, you must know your tools, you must know your wood, you must know when to drive, how much to drive, how wet, A to Z about the wood. If you are a teacher, you must know A to Z about teaching, learning psychology. The fact that each child is different, each individual is different, how to interact. Some will interact with a certain response, you will try a certain way, but that way might not be relevant or applicable to somebody else. All these details you must immerse yourself. It is not just going to the classroom and just, letting out whatever is in the textbook, whatever is here, or whatever is in some other prescribed syllabus, or what do you call it, basic text for that course, but to have all the other skills, communication skills, compassionate approach, understanding approach, so that it will also rub on that child, as well as motivate the child or that student. So painful, but we have to go back to school. So all of you have to go back to school. Even I have to go back to school, because we forget. We function as adults. We forget that the people we are talking to are not the same as us. They are very different. Their motivations are different. Their sentiments are different. Their feelings are different. Their attitudes are different. And we also tend to look everything in a very uniform way, because that's the modern way. That's the way we are faced with. 20 or 30 or 40 in a classroom, there's no way you can look into individual needs. But we try. At least we develop the mindfulness. So there are many programs in the Buddha Dhamma fortunately, and I would like to appeal to venerables to draw from the Buddha Dhamma's development of the mind, not so much in terms of meditation as such, retreats as such, but how we can bring mental cultivation in terms of the classroom or the lecture table, in terms of developing the thinking, the development of our students and children and families and adults. Once I ask that you go to school, I think it is equally important, or even maybe more important, for you to make sure that you are not only teaching children and youngsters, but also you are teaching their parents. There is no way you can bring about a holistic education unless the parents and the homes are in sync with what you are doing. Whatever you do in the classroom or the lecture theatre must be reinforced in the home by the parents. So ideally, we go back to school. In your case, you're already having more or less adult children. But let us, through your engagement with the village schools and all the other schools, also try and get them to be involved, so that in the home, the child, as I discussed earlier on in the evenings, will have that mental culture in the home, which is going to be reinforced in the classroom when they go to school, and then when they come to the institution, you have a better mental culture child than the neglect that otherwise might take place. So within whatever you are doing, try your best to always have a very close engagement with the family. You must know the parents, personally know the parents of whoever your students are, and be able to communicate with the parents as much as with the particular student. It's very important. These are difficult things, these are very challenging things, but they are very meaningful. And that will make the difference between education and holistic education. because we are now focusing on holistic education, the total human being, not just the subject, not just giving them, the facts and knowledge and information that they can get anytime. In fact, even without coming to university, they can Google to get everything you want. But we want something beyond that. We want something beyond Googling to develop this human being, this total human being. Now, I should not be talking all the time, so I hope you are also thinking while I'm talking. I hope that you also have some ideas and some suggestions and some proposals so that we can collectively work this. This is a collective effort. We can collectively work these things out. I have left some of these things early on. I don't think you have not had time to look, but I will try and get more books on this. This is not all that I have done. There are some books not here also. Like the ABC book and the Word book and various other books. There's a book called Siddhartha, Prince of Peace, which Siam Minigal wants to do a movie because he was so taken up by the book and the way it is being presented and some of the incongruous details have been rationalized and make Siddhartha a role model for our youngsters for their success and well-being. And all the other things. I will emphasize this is not everything. This is only a small example. You are more capable. You have the capability to develop materials yourself. These are examples, only illustrations. But please try and come up with as much material as possible so that within a period of 5 years, we will have a reservoir of educational materials which we can share with the whole world. It cannot happen in a day, but slowly, incrementally, we can make a contribution. More and more materials should come from this institute, from you, from different faculties. We should be able to do it. Now, first thing we can do is Tibetan and Chinese department can use some of these books as exercises for translation. That has come to my mind immediately. You have various translation exercises. Why go and translate something else when we can translate this and straight away bring it out as a Tibetan translation or a Chinese translation in-house? So I'm giving this as also another project. Only thing is we have to safeguard the copyright, that's about it. But please feel free, whatever you want from me in terms of support, I am more than happy to extend whatever support. But don't feel at all intimidated or shy or not having enough of confidence. I have confidence in you. I know you can do it. Just give it a try. We translate some of these books into Tibetan, Chinese, and whatever local languages, Hindi or whatever. And as our students and staff engage in this, they can engage in so many other translations. And then, who knows, they might become expert translators. Why not? And they will also learn a lot of things in the process. I have not had the chance to have a workshop or a seminar. A lecture is only the tip of what we need to do, very, very superficial. What we need to do is detailed workshop, where we have exercises, where we have dialogue with the participants, where we give them assignments, where we give them time to think and reflect and come back again. So maybe each of the topics, we spend a day with them. 2 sessions in the morning, with lunch break, and another 2 sessions or 1 session. And then we will come up with more and more materials and more in-depth internalization of whatever we are teaching. Other topics that you have in mind also develop the same thing. Tibetan culture, Tibetan civilization, Tibetan medicine. All these things we can look into and make positive contributions. I think I will stop there for the time being. I would like to hear from you because I have this bad habit of talking too much, so I must stop. And I want to be a listener, I want to listen to you. Any ideas, any suggestions, any response, positive or negative? Please.